Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Dude, the Rhino might be back, bro.
Football.
Oh, there he is, 10-plus year NFL vet. Let's just say the production team being me for that intro.
I love it. You don't know how much I love it.
True story. I totally forgot to get us an intro from our actual production guy, and it was the day of our first podcast a couple weeks ago. I'm like, I'll just find a couple clips of him saying "dude" or something and throw him in there.
Bro,
we'll make a real one. We'll make a real one later.
I don't know what to call people. I'm at that weird age. I can't call you sir, and I'm not going to call you mister.
You know, I've started to use guy if it's a condescending situation. You know, if you're gonna clap me, I'm gonna say, "Come on, guy, what are you doing?" If I'm road raging a little bit, I might put my window down. Come on, guy, put your blinker on, guy.
Oh, I hate the guy word. Oh, dude, my uncle used to call me that. Hey, guy.
Chief, yeah, Chief. I feel like Chief kind of went out the
sport. There's a million of them.
Sport, yeah. Well, he's a 10-year NFL vet. Started a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. Played for the Vikings. Loved it so much that he stayed. He stayed and is one of us. He's Minnesotan. Alex Boone.
Hello.
Before we get into all sorts of things off just a Vikings blowout debacle, before I ask a dumb football question and call for someone's ass to be fired. You told me before the show that you were taking a pie out of the oven.
You're really going to do this?
And so I'm going to need your pie power rank. Tell the audience what kind of pie it is, and then we're going to need your pie power rankings here before we go any further.
So I live in Eden Prairie, and my daughter and my wife go up to the Arboretum, which I love. I'm a huge fan of the Arboretum. And next to it is the little apple place, the apple farm, where you go and they teach you about the apples. And so my wife knows I love pie. So
nice little Saturday. Yeah.
Dude, it's phenomenal. Pie rankings. Triple berry, blueberry, raspberry lime. Boom.
Raspberry lime.
Dude, Kowalski's got this raspberry lime. They only do it like once in a blue moon, but you find it, it's golden nugget.
Wow.
For sure.
So you're more into you need some fruit in your pie. You're not going.
Berry pie guy.
Okay. What about banana cream?
I could do a banana. It's not going to be my first 3 picks. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, can I get a blueberry? We're out. All right, let me get the strawberry. We're out. Ooh, triple berry. Nothing. Banana cream.
Pumpkin?
I feel like I ate too much as a kid, and so now when I see it, it kind of makes me a little weird. You know what I'm saying? And then the consistency and the taste is just a little funky.
It does taste and look a little bit like baby food.
Yeah, like flan.
It's like a baby
weird.
Food puree or something.
Yeah.
So, all right, well.
Football.
What about you?
Give us your pie power rankings in the comments section on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
You want mine?
Yeah.
I would say banana cream is 3. Lemon meringue is 2. Used to love that as a kid. That was number 1 as a kid. And then I like a good pecan pie. I don't need it. I need it like once a year at the end of 4 Thanksgiving plates. And then I just pass out.
Bro.
Just like a half a pecan pie,
You're
little
a serial
ice cream
killer.
or something.
Banana cream. What was lemon meringue? You're
meringue.
like an 80-year-old stuck in like a 35-year-old pie. I don't even know what to say. Now, here's a question. Have you ever been to a place called Ruth Chris?
Yeah, the steakhouse. Yeah.
Have you ever had their they have one of the greatest sweet potato casseroles. Have you ever had it?
Oh, no.
Dude, next time you go, you got to get it. It is phenomenal. It's to die for. It's like almost
there
like
still
Drago's. It's foul.
How many Ruth's Chris? There used to be one downtown Minneapolis. Is that one still open? Do we know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's great.
Had some legendary meal. I'm writing
We
all
should
this
do
down.
a show there. We should do a show there.
Just sit in the back in some corner booth, just 6 pies on the table, a bunch of steak.
We'll work for food, okay? I'll just keep talking. The more food you bring out, you want more. Secrets?
I will break down the X's and O's of any play if you bring us some food.
Anything
great.
from anybody.
Football.
So I'm gonna unleash. I'm just gonna give you my biggest takeaway from Vikings Eagles. And you tell me if this is a bad metaphor or if I'm an idiot here. And then we can get into all kinds of other stuff off this game. But that game to me felt, and this is where this game has played out a few different times, I feel like, in the Kirk Cousins era of Vikings football the last 4+ years. But that game felt like a boxing match where, all right, Vikings step in the ring. All right, feel pretty prepared. Let's go get this. And the Eagles just like came flying across the ring. Bam, bam. You get knocked down. Maybe you get knocked down twice in the first round, and then you get knocked down again in the second round. And it's just, whoa, okay, we're down 2 touchdowns. They've got 370 yards in the first half. We can't get our stuff going offensively. Holy crap. All right, got to go back to the corner here, regroup with the trainer. And then, like, the opponent starts to get a little gassed in the 5th or 6th round, and they stop throwing combos. They stop throwing haymakers, and the fight is there to be won. Yep. But the Vikings were just kind of curled up in the fetal position from what happened in the 1st and 2nd round. And I was like yelling at the TV, collect yourselves. This is a 3-hour game. It's a 12-round fight. You're still in this thing. At the end of the game, 24 points is all the Eagles wound up scoring, and it just felt like offensively, like the defensive effort in the first half was a disaster, and that's a thing. But if you're the Vikings offense, just take a deep breath. The Lions put up 30-plus points on this defense. They have good cornerbacks, but it just felt like the Vikings were so shell-shocked by the early barrage.
Yeah.
And Kirk, I think, contributes to some of this. When there's a football crisis happening, he's not the guy that's going to calm everyone down.
Right.
And so I think they just, instead of calming down and coming back, they just kept playing frenetically, and they got smoked. So.
Yeah. It was kind of like they went through the motions in the second half a little bit. Like everyone just kind of fell asleep. Like at different times, different guys fell asleep. Like obviously the interception, Justin Jefferson, he's like, listen, I know I need to break that off sooner, cleaner. But then all of a sudden you start watching, and towards the end of the game, I feel like they started to pick the blitzes up, and it started to come from more the interior. And that's when you started to notice it, because that's when the front line started kind of falling asleep a little bit. Then a twist game started picking up, and they started falling asleep on that. And it's like, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with everybody, because they're like, man, they just got steamrolled. And I'm like, like you said, they came out for a boxing match. They got 1-2'd right in the face. And they were like, wow, what is that? The defense was kind of on their heels. They're trying to figure things out. You got a young new safety. He's letting a dude run right down the middle of the field. And everyone's like, dude, what's going on? Like everyone was just kind of in a little miscommunication. But they came back in the second half. Defense holds them to nothing, right? They figure themselves out. They're like, hey, listen, we're better than this. We know how to do this. The offense, in my opinion, was driving up and down the field. They just kept turning the ball over. And that's one of those things where it's like, hey, listen, that's where somebody needs to grab somebody and be like, hey, we're doing what we're doing. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's not anything that they're doing. Yeah, they came out and they gave us a great haymaker, and we were stunned. But we came back and we were like, okay, here comes our 1-2 combo. And they started kind of getting stunned, like, okay, these guys do play football. And I think it was that first third down. Was that Darius Slay's first one, the first breakup where he was going crazy?
God, I feel like he had so many great plays. I don't remember specifically, but yeah.
But
he was everywhere.
Like, to me, that was the first haymaker. Like he was kind of like, I'm not going to let this happen on my house. And I was like, all right, it's 1 third down. What's the big deal, right? Then the next one, it comes back as another PBU. And you're like, okay, listen. These dudes came to play today, but eventually, like it always does happen, the Vikings offense starts to open up and people start to mess up. Kirk makes some good throws. Thielen's got some great catches on the sidelines. Like how many of those were just dimes? Like they had to be. And even Troy Aikman saying, listen, do you see this ball he just threw here? If he throws it 1 inch to the right, it's an interception. 1 inch to the left, it's an interception. Like it's there. Now the mistakes that happen, those are stupid. And they'll tell you, I mean, you're a pro. You can't make that mistake. You know you can't get behind the safety. You got to get in front of them up front. They all of a sudden in the end of the game, when they're blitzing and then they stop blitzing, what are they going to do? They're going to create movement up front. They're not just going to free rush you and be like, all right, we're done, guys. We gave up for the day. No, we're going to do something else diabolical. It's like at that point, everybody needs to become alive and alert. And it just, you didn't see the excitement. You know, like it's weird. As much as we all make fun of Russ, because we all, the Broncos, let's ride, we all laughed about it. There was something about being with him that, like, and even playing against him so many times, no matter if they were up or down, this dude was just always hyped. And it kept the team alive. And they had this saying that's like, it's not over until it's over. And that was their big thing. It was like, it's not over until the game is over. And Pete will let you know the game's not over. Like he's going nuts, banana balls on the sideline. You didn't see any of that in the second half. It's like you said, they still kind of seemed a little stunned. The defense was like, hey, man, we're holding them. The offense is like, hey, we're doing good things. But then all of a sudden we fall asleep and we cause an interception, or we, bad throw interception. And it's like the team's just getting more down and down instead of being like, guys, we're still in this fight. And I think the biggest thing that drove me nuts, and we knew this was going to happen, and it kind of had to happen, but I don't know, because I kind of sit in the middle of the fence of this one. When you're down by so many points, what was it, 24-7 at half? You're down
Yes.
17 points. It's not really that much. It's at that moment that I might go back to the run a little bit more, right? Create more mismatches. Maybe we start beating up on them a little bit more. Maybe we see what Dalvin's going to do with Alexander Madison back there. Maybe we start changing up, but we can still get back to spreading them out, and we can still try and do this. And like we said before, when you spread these guys out and they create this new offense that they're like, wow, this is magical, bad things are going to happen. As long as you just say, hey, listen, there was some good in there. We were driving up and down the field. We made some good plays. We did some good things. Yeah, we did some really bad things, but at the same time, we learned from them. We're not going to do it again. We're not going to break like that. The offensive line is going to wake up in the fourth quarter. We're going to start to continue to fight and drive. And you know what? Maybe bringing a little bit of life will come from this run game.
This was kind of a game, too, that like I picked the schedule, I don't know, 4 different times. You know, when the schedule came out, we picked it. When I think before the schedule came out, but we knew the opponents, we picked the schedule, and then we picked it before the season. And pretty much every time, if I'm remembering correctly, I had the Vikings losing this game. So, and I actually, a couple times, I thought they'd lose the opener to the Packers and maybe start 0-2 and then get things going because it's first-year head coach, it's chemistry and stuff. So, if you zoom out, it looked ugly. There was a lot of things to just burn on the film, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, from 30,000 feet, I think the Eagles are really good. The Eagles have great cornerbacks. The Eagles have weapons now with A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts looks more accurate this season.
His whole line is ridiculous. Did you see them? I mean, they're tough, dude, and they're these mauling dudes. And it was funny because I was out with my assistant coaches and we were watching, and I was like, dude, you could put almost anybody back there right now, and they would win this game because there's just nothing going on. Like they just had all day and everything to do, and it's not like I see it the other way around. Like when I was looking at this season, the first 2 games, I knew they were going to beat the Packers. The Packers are going to be so stunned because they didn't have their main threat, and the Vikings were going to be so high from this whole Kevin O'Connell. Like you had to know that was going to be the perfect matchup. Like, listen, it's our first time really playing without the big man over there, and this is our first game at home. Like we're gonna have enough testosterone and energy going through this that we're just going to destroy everybody. And they did. It was a great game. But this game, when you go into Philly, and we've talked about Philly before. You've been to Philly, I'm sure. I mean, it's insane. Like
I got off the plane and 3 people threw beer cans at my head. I don't even know why.
It's insanely fun, but at the same time, if you're down 24/7, it's miserable, right? And it's like one of those things where you just got to go trial by fire. Do I appreciate the fact that he put the game in Kirk's hands and he was like, "Hey, man, let's go, let's ride, let's do this"? Yeah, I do. That's cool. That's something new, right? Finally, it's like, hey, this is what everybody wanted to see. Paying this dude a ton of money. Everybody's giving him enough snuff. Like he's going to either go out there and do this or he's not. And I'm not going to say it all fell on him. I'll say the offense. Offensively, they were going through the motions, in my opinion. Like they were doing good things, and then all of a sudden they fall asleep. And then it was like, all right, let's regroup. Do some good things, fall asleep. Do some good things, fall asleep. And it's just, if you want to win games, which I thought they could have for sure there, you got to come out in the second half and you just got to keep punching them in the face. Like, hey, listen, you got us good. You got us good. But now here we come, and we're going to just keep throwing haymakers and keep throwing haymakers. And maybe that's delving up the middle a little bit. Maybe that's tossing it to Dalvin. Maybe it could be a million things. Like people forget too, and that just hit my mind, the Irv Smith touchdown that he dropped. Like there was a lot of chances in this game to win it. So for people to be like, man, they got schmoed, I'm like, I don't know if I would say that.
If he catches that, it's 21-14. Everything feels
it's
different.
A different game.
And that's where I will absolutely defend Kirk Cousins. And that the 2 biggest plays, Irv dropping that pass, that was a dime. It was right on his hands. It was a great play. And Jefferson running the wrong route or just, I guess, breaking the route. He ran it behind the safety, but then he like ran up to the left, and he was supposed to come across. It was a whole weird thing.
It was kind of a lazy route. Let's just be honest. It was a really lazy route, and Darius Slay read that perfectly. But that Irv Smith one was for sure a touchdown. Like that falls on you, and that's one of the points of like you're down, and they're giving you everything they got, and yeah, you ate a lot of it. But now all of a sudden, here comes your haymaker, and dude, you're the guy to be running down the middle of the field. Perfect ball. All you got to do is catch it, and that's your first haymaker back. And then they go, "What? What just happened?"
You brought up. I want to dive a little bit deeper on. You brought up because you've been in huddles with Russell Wilson. You were with the Seahawks at the end of your career, and I mean, you got to spend at least a month every day with him at the end of your time in Seattle. Enough to know him. One of my biggest beefs with Cousins, well, 2 things, because people always, you're blaming Kirk for, that loss was the fault of 10 different things. So the loss wasn't Kirk's fault, but this is what we do all the time. It's pretty rare that you find a game where that was Kirk's fault that game was lost. But it's also pretty rare that you find a game where, hey, things aren't going great and you just kind of need your quarterback. You need your Russell Wilson or your Josh Allen or your Kyler Murray running 85 yards on a 2-point conversion.
That's
hilarious.
You
just need that guy to bail you out, and he's not special enough to kick the door open. The Eagles are kind of leaving the door open for you.
They were.
And you just need to make it happen. And I get that a couple bad things happened, the Irv Smith drop, but go back to January, and Kevin O'Connell said when he was asked, and we've brought this up a million times on the show, so apologies to the audience, but I think it's so fascinating. He said, the biggest thing I can do for Kirk is to get him to play with a quiet mind in big moments. And for me, that means like third down, they know you're going to pass. Road game against Philly. You're down by 2 scores. It's late. Whatever it is, like football crisis mode, you need to be able to take a deep breath, mentally see everything, process it slowly. And he has always been kind of a teeth clencher. And he gives off this nervous energy watching from afar. And I think it kind of permeates to the rest of the team. Like if he were more of a, guys, hey, we're fine. If he was more of a we're fine guys type of personality, I think they win more games like that. The opportunity was there for them to win the game. So I guess my question is, what are your thoughts on my observation? And then what is it like when you have a Russell Wilson instead who's like, I don't care if we're down by 30, we're going to win this game. Or is it just kind of like, all right, dude, whatever, you're just always happy, and it's not really going to impact the result of this game?
No, it's not like that at all. Honestly, I don't know if I believe or I don't know if I agree with what you said about feeling comfortable with Kirk with the ball, because for some reason, I didn't really get that feeling this game. I don't know. As he was making these tight window throws in a clutch game, I was like, man, dude's kind of playing better than he really has in a while. Like, that's why I'm saying you have to give it a little bit of time. Bad things are going to happen. We said that. I said that last year. I think we already said it this year. Like, when you open things up and you let these guys experience things, like, hey, I know we've never really thrown the ball 50 times a game and been 5 wide for 35 of it, but hello, it's okay sometimes. You're going to throw bad balls. Your bad things are going to happen as long as we cover, tackle, let the defense go out, do what they're going to do. We can get the ball back and do it again, but it's guys believing that it's going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if you're late in the game, you throw an interception, hey, it's going to be okay. We'll get the ball back. Something crazy will happen. Whatever it is, you just have to believe. And I think that's the thing about this is it takes time to have trust. You go out the first game, you kick somebody in the face. A lot of guys are like, dude, look at us. And we said, hey, watch out, because crazy things happen down the pipe. And the first loss that you experience is going to be interesting. It's like the coach down in Miami said, I forget his name.
Mike McDaniel, yeah.
Yeah, dude, the dude's hilarious, by the way. That guy's so funny.
Has anyone looked less like a football coach than that guy?
He's just so funny. He's a goofy dude. But what did he tell his team? Like, I want to see you guys go through, what did he say? Turmoil or something. Like, I want to see how this team responds. And that was my biggest question going in. How are they going to respond the first time it goes wrong? Because this is a new leadership. It's a new regime. Who's everybody going to look to? Is Kevin going to be like, hey, guys, we're good? I mean, of course he is, but are they going to believe it? Hey, listen, we did some stupid things. We're not going to do them again. We're not going to drop that ball. We're not going to miss that route. We're not going to throw that ball like that. You know, like all these things. But look what we're doing. Look what we're out here achieving. Like, this is the first time we're running this kind of offense, and we're doing pretty good. Yeah, we did some bonehead things. We won't do that anymore. We'll learn from our mistakes. We'll fix it. Maybe we don't throw those plays again, but whatever. As long as the guys believe, hey, he's right. We went out. We tried some things. Kirk threw the ball 50 times. That was interesting. At the same time, let's keep pushing forward. Let's not look back. Let's look ahead. You know, and I think that's a lot on the leaders on the team. And that's going to be Kirk's biggest thing is, does he believe in that? Do the guys believe in Kirk? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a like weird power struggle between, not struggle, but like power chain of like how you look at it, like from, you know, do I believe the boss? Do I believe the head coach? Do I believe the quarterback? Like, at what point does this connection break? And then, how do I fix it if I see it? And at the same time, why do I think that, why is it broken? Let's find out what's going on. And as long as the head coach is preaching the right thing, hey, man, we'll fix this. We can figure it out. We're a tough-ass team. We're in a good division right now. We can come back. We can respond well. And Kirk's like, yeah, guys, let's do it. And everybody always points to his personality. I feel like that's such kind of a dig because we are who we are. And you can't ask somebody to be somebody different, especially not in that locker room. Because the minute you become fake, you lose everybody's trust. Because nobody ever knows if you're real or fake anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen guys like that where you're like, I just don't know if this is the real side of them or the fake side of them. And then all of a sudden you get crossed in between the two worlds. And you're like, this is really weird. This guy's a leader and he's kind of being different and stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. They play the Lions this week, right?
They do, and that for years and years, it's like, oh, okay, at least we get the Lions at home
Not
this
anymore,
week or whatever. So they're 4-4 in their last 8. They're over the last 4 games going back to the end of last year. They're averaging like 34 points a game. And Jared Goff, who's become this laughing stock, right? Over his last 7 games, 17 touchdowns, 3 picks, 105 passer rating. So, and they play their asses off for Dan Campbell.
They do. How could you not, though? I mean, what did I just say? Do I trust you? Do I believe you? When you're in the office every day at 4:30 in your underwear, walking around, drinking a cup of coffee, like, yeah, I didn't even sleep last night. We believe you, dude. Trust me, I believe you. But that's the thing that's like, man, if this guy can do it, I can do it. If he can be here making all these adjustments, like, how could you not? Like, when he just says the goofiest stuff and you're like, God, this guy's so funny. And it's funny because he throws his stuff out at like the perfect time. Like, it seems like it's like a real serious situation. He'll just say something really goofy. And that's what you want because it just takes you off guard. And you're like, wait, what did you say? What's he talking about? I love it.
Dan Campbell doesn't just like football. Dan Campbell loves football.
We're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right.
Football!
He can go forever, I feel like. See,
it's a lot of 15-yard penalties there in the 10 seconds he was speaking. Dude, you're going to bite someone's kneecap off.
They're the prime example of, like, you don't have to have a super talented roster. And don't get me wrong, they have super talented players, but it's not like one of these rosters where you're like, wow, that's legit. But they just go out and they fight, dude. And they know how to fight because they're led by a guy who likes to swing. And he's just not afraid to be. But he's another reason of, like, people sometimes come to me like, oh, you ever get upset when these coaches say these goofy things? You're like, nah, dude, because that's how he really is. Like, he was a former player, so we all think alike. We all just think the goofiest things in the world, but then he said it openly. So it's like, dude, this guy must really care. He really wants us to do something.
Yeah, and to your point, he's being himself. He's not not trying to pretend to be a tough guy or whatever. He's just sort of being himself. I guess one more question on this, because I agree with you in terms of just be patient.
Right.
I think you can criticize the things that happen in that game, but also, like, where I'm at is a lot of crappy things happen in that game. But ultimately, I think you're going to look back at the end of the year and say, a road loss to Philadelphia looked like a legitimate, like, 12-13 win team maybe. You're not going to kick yourself too much over having that loss on your schedule if you bounce back from it. So I think they're still going to win 10 or 11 games. I think they have a bunch of home games on their schedule. They have 9 total home games on their schedule this season. So I'm kind of in, let's see what happens. If you bounce back against Detroit, all right, cool. Now you're 2-1, and now you're rolling along. If you let some of those things that happen against Philadelphia trickle into the Detroit game, now you're 1-2, that's where I go back to what you said, which is, okay, do they believe that things are really different? Do they believe that they're going to turn things around? Right. Because it feels like it can be such a fragile thing in the NFL,
And it's funny because then you wonder who's everybody looking to find out if it's true. You know what I'm saying? Because that is probably what the big thing is like everyone's looking around like, dude, what's going on? Are we back to what we used to be, or are we moving on from this? And it's like, who's the one guy that's going to make that decision for everybody? Who's the one guy that's like, dude, this guy's coming along, or he's not? It's going to be so interesting. And who's the leaders on the team other than Kirk, and who's out there preaching the same stuff that Kirk's preaching? That's huge too. And do they have Kirk's back as much as everyone says they do? Because, dude, there are closed door meetings and you're like, dude, this is just not right. The minute you hear about that is the minute you're like, dude, it's over. Nobody believes anyone anymore. Everything's a lie. Everything you told was a lie. It's a fight. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I think it'll all sort of play out one way or the other. If they beat the Lions, then I think everyone's going to just sort of forget about what happened against
they will.
the Eagles.
Especially with the way the Lions are playing. If they beat the Lions, everyone will forget about Philly. They'll be like, all right, that was a rough game. Let's see what happens next week. We're back onto it.
Yeah. How long does it take? So they're installing this new offensive system all summer, but this is the first time they've gone live with it against actual opponents and two good teams. I don't expect it all to click. I mean, they're averaging 15 points a game, which is fifth worst in the NFL through the first two offensively, which is not good enough, clearly. But how many weeks do you think it'll take until everything starts to click the way that it should? And I don't think week 2 is when it would necessarily happen. So I'm giving them some leeway. But like, what's a realistic expectation?
Week 4 or 5. Well, I mean, by week 5, I would expect to see a very finely tuned machine. But that's the other issue that I have with all this, and it's with all these teams, and it's with a lot of things right now. Like, number one, there's a ton of people that are hurt because nobody plays in the preseason anymore. And then you come out in the real season, and it's like your body's like, wait, what is this? This is a huge jump from the last month of practice that we were just jogging around and messing around. And not only that, but up front offensive linemen that are getting fallen on, and all of a sudden they're just tearing their knees all over the place. It's like, dude, what is going on right now? But when you don't have that live speed or you don't have that live action, it takes a while to gel. And that's why, like, not the way the preseason's going is just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't believe that more guys aren't like, listen, football is one of those games. It's a double-edged sword. To be good, you have to go out and do it live, full speed, practice as hard as you can, give it everything you got. And yeah, you're going to beat yourself into oblivion, but you're going to be a well-oiled machine earlier, faster. You're going to, like, these guys that are going out in these live games, you go from playing 10 snaps in the preseason to playing 68 snaps in the first game. Your body's got to be wrecked. I mean, I never played with an O-line coach that ever let us skate. Every game you had to play. So it was whether first game was always a quarter, the second game was always 2 quarters, third game was 3 quarters, fourth game you had to play a series. So it was like by the time the season came around, you were like, dude, I've been hit so many times. This is great. I can't imagine how bad it's got to be for the old lineman, because the only way you can get better is to see live reps. And the only way you can get better is to really go at it hardcore, see twists, see all that stuff. But not only that, but the receivers, the quarterbacks, the running backs, all these things, dude. You have to put it all together in the end. And then all of a sudden there's miscommunication. You're trying to figure that out. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to run that route on the backside. It doesn't look right. Let's switch it to this. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So when you don't have these preseason games to go out there and throw vanilla looks at people, at least just figure out some timing. I would expect, especially with the new offense, by week 4, you should be gelled and ready to roll.
All right. All right.
Week 5.
Football. I feel like we need a new segment on this show, which is like ranking the tough guy moments of each week in the NFL. So 2 that come to mind from this last week. Dane Jackson from the Buffalo Bills was literally carted off in an ambulance last night in the first Monday Night Football game and then just walked out of the hospital this morning. He's going to be fine.
Somehow.
So,
those team doctors went in there and they were like, you
cracks his neck and walks out of the hospital.
Dude, I'm telling you, those team doctors are ruthless. They probably walked in there like, dude, are you okay? Everybody leaves the room. You get up right now. Walk out. Dare you embarrass this organization?
You made us drive an ambulance on the field.
Dude, they'd come up to you on the field and they'd be like, do you need a cart? Really? You need a cart to get off the field? Like, dude, I think I broke my leg. You need a cart? Oh my God, fat boy, get up, please. You'd be like, really, fat guy? Like,
put your arm around the trainer, drag your broken leg, your compound fractured leg to the sideline, and we'll go in the tent.
They don't want to. They don't want you to put their arm around them. That's why they're always calling their buddies over. Like, no, don't touch me. You stink. Stop. Like, what? Aren't you here to help me?
And then another one, Justin Herbert.
Oh, dude.
Played with like it sounds like some cracked ribs and for sure like punctured cartilage in his ribs.
I text you.
And it sounds like he's just gonna put a flak jacket on and deal with it this week. So
I love this kid. I love him so much more. Did you see when he was running and he like threw the ball down because he kind of gave himself up, and then the next play threw a 54-yard bullet down the middle of the field and like pretend like nothing was wrong?
Oh.
That's what I'm like, dude. That's the kind of trust you have to have for Like when you do that, you gain so much trust, especially when they're like, oh, he tore all the cartilage off his ribs. I remember Justin Smith did that one time, and he didn't practice for weeks. And he said that just to move was unbearable, and to breathe, to laugh. So we always try to make him laugh and stuff. We were terrible. And yeah, we tell him the most perverted jokes just to get him to laugh and stuff. He's an old guy. It was awesome. But when you're an old lineman out there, number one, you better figure out what you're doing, because that's your fault. Okay. Whatever that dude's dealing with, that's your issue and you need to fix it. But at the same time, when you're that old line and you turn around, they're like, yeah, he played through some torn cartilage. You're like, dude, you are a badass. I don't care what anyone says. You are a real badass, because that had to hurt, because he took how many more hits after he took the one that knocked him out? Like he took that one and you could tell he was hurt so bad, but then he came back in, and there's just something about doing that everybody around you is like, whatever it takes, man. I'll do whatever it takes. And I think they're like third right tackle, second center. They're down a ton of alignment too. So for him to come back and fight, dude, that showed a lot of grit. Went way up in my book.
So that is so that's something that if that happens to a quarterback, the offensive line feels guilty.
Oh, you better.
That he took a hit like that.
100%. God, you have to. It's your fault. Is that a question?
No, I'm just wondering. I mean, sometimes football happens, and I
Was
suppose
that
I
your
would
stupid
feel.
question of the day?
No, I have a stupid question.
That was a
coming up.
stupid question. Your quarterback got derailed. Does the O-line feel guilty? No, we were like, hey man, you should have got rid of it. Rules are rules.
Actually, you held onto the ball longer than the 2.5 seconds that I was supposed to hold my guy off for.
Here's the best though. Like when they call a 3-step and they don't throw the first read, you know it's just bad news, right? Because everybody's just selling out. It's because they tell you got to sell out on these 3 steps. So you're like, dude, doesn't matter who's across from me, I got to sell out. If they don't throw that first read, those are sometimes the ones that you're like, hey, rules are rules. You throw it or you're getting peppered. Like,
when you say sell out, what does that mean in pass protection for a 3-step?
Like they want you to, instead of setting back, they want you to attack the defensive player. Number one, because they want everyone to be firm, because the quarterback, if he's in gun, he's literally just going to drop his back foot and throw the ball. If he's under center, which nobody does anymore, he's just going to take 3 steps and throw it. So they want everyone to be firm, keep their hands down. But at the same time, if that first read gets blocked, dude, sometimes you're engaged and you're like, no one's saying anything. No one's talking, right? And your quarterback is literally right behind you. You can smell the cologne on him. And you're like, dude, throw the ball. And they don't. Those are the ones that you're like, listen, rules are rules.
Which quarterback? What are your power rankings for quarterbacks that are most likely to wear cologne during a football game on Sunday?
Oh, all of them.
Russell Wilson's, he has a cologne line. He's in my top 3 for sure.
For sure.
Did you put one squirt of cologne on? What is that?
Dude, you know who smells?
Jimmy Garoppolo's in my 3 too. That guy wears cologne 100% during football games.
By the way, I predicted week 5 and it was week 2. Like him being on their roster will be the greatest blessing for them. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Don't you think that team right now too is saying, because Trey Lance might have more upside 3 years from now, but he's barely played any football.
Yeah.
But right now, that team is better with Jimmy Garoppolo. The NFC just got tougher because of that injury, right?
Dude, I've been saying for years, he's one of my favorite players, because when you talk to everybody, they love him. They're like, I remember the first time I talked to Staley about him, and I was like, dude, what's he like? And he was like, bro, you just don't know. He is incredible. Throws tight balls. He's a great dude. He understands the offense. Like he can get things. He can be a bro's bro. Everything that makes you a great quarterback. At the same time, obviously this was years ago. Since then, I think the one thing about him is at times he falls into this category of like he can't be the superstar that they need him to be. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't get over that hump himself either. But at the same time, to run that offense, as long as they're running the ball the way that Kyle wants them to, all you have to do is be a good game manager. They don't need you to throw it 450 yards. They have Debo every which way, going every which way. And as long as Kittle can stay open over the middle, they're a dangerous team because their defense always plays lights out. Like their defense they're tough.
Yeah, I think Garoppolo's in that category of, man, if he just didn't make $27 million to the cap, which makes it harder. There's, it's like you like him, but you don't like him at that price. But
my money.
He also just has and I don't care about, like, I'm not trying to get into his financial business. It's more about like strategic roster building.
Oh, no, I know.
When you're giving a non-elite quarterback a lot of money. But I just love Baker Mayfield made a huge deal out of the organization. Oh, they did me wrong. And it's like, and Jimmy G was just, at some point, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said, hey, man, we don't believe you can take us to a Super Bowl. And so we're going to go with this young kid and we're going to trade you, go practice on the side field until we trade you. And Jimmy G's like, okay, whatever. I make a lot of money and I'll just, whether it's with the Niners or somebody else, I'm sure I'll be fine. And he just kept it cool all off season. And here he is. Kind of amazing.
Did I just say he's a bro's bro? Like the guy that literally complained about nothing. The minute they drafted Trey, everybody was like, oh my God, how do you feel? He's like, great. It's great to have another quarterback in the room. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Seems like a cool guy. Yeah.
You couldn't piss this dude off. Staley told me, like, you don't get it, man. This guy is just different. He is just cool. But when you see him out there and at times under pressure and he plays cool and calm, like he's just one of these guys that he fits this role for this offense so perfectly well. And people are always like, well, how can you say that? I'm like, dude, it's not hard to hand the ball off. He's literally turning around and pitching the ball 85% of the time. That ain't a hard job. The other 15%, they're like, hey, listen, Jimmy, throw it to Debo or throw it to George. That's it. Gotcha. Like,
right, cool.
Dude,
good talk.
Right? If he's not open, man, throw it out of bounds. I don't know what to tell you, kid. But like him being on their roster is going to save them. Watch.
Yeah, I think they're like a 10, 11, 12 win team now, and they should get another win over Seattle when they play them again. So, are you ready to fire someone's ass here?
Yeah, who are you firing?
It's that time in Trenches with Boone here, where old Macadac fires someone's ass.
Dude, you better hype it up.
Well, we've been firing people on your weekly podcast. It used to be Declan that would fire people, but we've been firing people for, I think this is probably the 20th or like 21st guy that's going to be fired here, okay? And this is an unprecedented firing here because this is the first time that we have called for the same guy to be fired twice. And in this case, in back-to-back weeks.
You're going to pick Dominic?
Nathaniel Hackett, come on down again. Somehow you are still employed going into week 2. Let's go, I think, to the third quarter of this game here, Booney.
Mm.
So again, this is a week after he elected to run the clock all the way down after a bunch of just fire drill, red zone things and delays of game stuff. And at the end of week 1, he said, all right, instead of putting the ball in Russell Wilson's hands, let's run the clock all the way down and try to be the third team in NFL history to kick a 64-yard field goal. Oh, by the way, in Seattle, where it's kind of windy, okay? So third quarter of this game, the Broncos are ready to line up for what everyone expected. Hey, it's a 54-yard field goal. But it's taking the sideline forever to get the field goal unit out there because Nathaniel Hackett is, I don't know, trying to figure out, should we go for it? Should we not? By the time he sends the field goal unit out, there's like 16 seconds on the play clock, and they're running out, right? It's a 54-yarder, so it's not like you have a ton of room for a delay of game here. And they almost got the snap off. I think they got it off like a half second late, and McManus drills it, by the way, but flags come out, delay of game, 5-yard penalty. So now it's a 59-yard field goal. The game is being played in Denver, so you're playing at altitude here. Right. So 59-yard field goal. All right, well, he just nailed the 54-yarder, and we trusted him to kick a 64-yard game winner the week before. I think it had the distance on one of the I think it had the distance, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, then he runs the punt team out instead of kicking a 59-yard field goal. And this is where, so a delay of game leads to 5 yards back, and then instead of kicking a 59-yarder, they go with the punt team. And from this point forward, the rest of the game, the fans started chanting out the play clock once it hit 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, trolling their own team and second week head coach Nathaniel Hackett. I don't think they've scored a touchdown in the red zone yet this season. They're like 0 for the first 2 weeks in the red zone. And so he might be a really nice guy, but holy crap, he seems underprepared to be an NFL head coach. And so unprecedented, Nathaniel Hackett is fired again, Booney.
My prediction, if they go 0-3, I bet you he gets canned.
What? After 3 weeks? Well, no, they won though. They won. They did win the game. So they
that's
did.
right, they did win.
They pulled it out in ugly fashion.
That's right.
So they probably bought a few more weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Had he started 0-3, Walton would have been like, dude, you're done. How could you start 0-3 after all the stuff that happened with Russ? And you come in, like, dude, you're not wrong for firing.
Sean Payton's just doing like Fox pregame stuff on. Sean Payton's just sitting there ready to be traded for.
Ready to go for somebody. All right, am I allowed to fire somebody?
Absolutely, yeah, fire.
All right, good. Listen. This is probably unprecedented too, but I'm firing the officiating crew from last night. I don't think they called more guys downfield the most pointless times. Like there was one, they were running a zone to the right and he threw a smoke to the left. The right guard had nothing to do with the play. Literally went maybe 4 yards and they threw a flag out.
Well, why is he just wandering aimlessly down the field?
You're supposed to run the play. They tell you have to run the play and you have to throw the smoke. Like if you're going to throw the smoke, you catch and throw. If you don't do that, I mean, the guy was 4 yards downfield all the way to the right and he threw a smoke to the left. Who cares if he's downfield? Was he sucking up the backside corner? Who cares?
It might be my favorite, most hilarious penalty where it's just like there's an aimlessly wandering right guard. Oh, reel him back in.
Here's the best. Every time they show the guy on TV, right? He's always looking up at the scoreboard because we're always looking to see who it was and what they did, and they're always like, "Oh God, what? Are you serious? You call me downfield? Me?" They do the same thing, and it just drives me nuts. Why can't one guy just be like, yeah, that was me? For sure.
Yeah, I am 15 yards down the field doing cartwheels, and it was a blast. It was great.
They all pretend like they're like, dude, I don't know what's talking about me. I don't know. Like, because when you're down there, sometimes the numbers get muffled, and they'll say a number. What do you say? I don't know.
So what is the rule? Is it 2 yards, 3 yards? What's from the line of scrimmage? 3?
I think it's 3, yeah. But even if it's like 5, who cares? As long as you're not engaged in somebody, what's the big deal? And a lot of it is because they say that when the O-linemen run past 3 yards, it sucks the linebackers up because, you can go up to 3 on the backside of a waggle. And so you'll go if there's a big gap just to try and suck in that backside because that over route's coming. But, I mean, I guess I just don't see the big deal. As long as I don't touch the guy, what's wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like they used to call it before the season a point of emphasis. All right, this season we need to make sure that illegal contact is a point of emphasis. And then they changed the word emphasis to clarification. It's a point of clarification. And I watching that game last night, I think they called like 4 or 5 of those fat man downfield penalties.
I was so
like, did they get in a room before the game, the league office, and say, okay, we can't have these aimlessly wandering Ezra Clevelands going down the field. We need to put a stop to this.
Don't talk about Ezra. There was a couple plays. I don't know if anybody saw this, but he was messing people up out there. Did you see that? They had Darashaw was holding people up, and he would just come out there and steamroll them. It was hilarious. Like, that's why I was watching this game, and it just felt different to me. Like, at times I was like, man, they're showing some fight. And then at other times you were like, okay, so then they're showing for a fight. Like, I just didn't get the whole, like, oh, it's over vibe. Like, I was like, man, they're coming back every time. And then they would do something stupid. But at the same time, they're still coming back. So it's like, wow, this is kind of different to me.
Do you think it's only 2 games? I don't know. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being the Hall of Fame Washington Redskins offensive lines where everyone's a Hall of Famer, and 1 being the worst offensive line you've ever seen in your life. Where are the Vikings at after 2 games? Offensive line, like your comfort level.
Last week I'll say Bradbury played better. Towards the end of the game, they started bringing more than they could block. So it started putting the tackles on a weird island where they have to set and squeeze at the same time. So someone's always going to come free. And I think that was the point to me where it was like, they're starting to have to blitz them enough that they're starting to try and pick them apart, where I thought there was a couple times they picked it up well. Other times there was a couple mistakes. But for this year, I'd say I have a better feeling. I don't know. The first week, the only issue I had was the center. And last week, I thought he played better. Ezra Cleveland was out there steamrolling people. I thought the rookie played really, really well against Fletcher Cox. Like, I don't underestimate Fletcher at all because I've played him. He's really, really tough. And he's one of these guys that, like, as the game goes on, some guys will get weaker. They'll slow down. They'll try to buddy you more. He's one of those guys that he gets more turned up. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a Cam Jordan. He's one of these guys that he's the heartbeat of this defense. So if he's flying around, hitting people, steamrolling dudes, they're fired up and excited. Him and Brandon Graham get the team going. When you're watching a rookie big boy him, I was like, dude, I kind of like this. I kind of like what I'm seeing here, right? Like, this gives you hope that these guys could be really, really good. Now, like we've said a million times on this show, cut with the bonehead mistakes, catch the ball that's thrown to you, make the simple things look really, really simple, and we can progress faster than everybody else. For the most part, going into Philly is really, really tough. Really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you can't hear anything. People are screaming horrible things at you. It's constantly like in the back of your mind. It's just one of those places that has like a real dreary feeling, and you're like, dude, I just hate being in here because everybody hates our guts. But it's still kind of fun, and some of those guys yesterday showed up.
I love how personally Philadelphia fans take it when
it's ridiculous.
A first round pick is a bust or something. You know, I think, you know, the Vikings have had so many first round picks that have busted. If Laquan Treadwell would have, and maybe
nobody would care.
If he or Cordero Patterson comes back to US Bank Stadium, people are like, oh, we'll probably do a tribute video. Oh, it's great. Cordero's back.
They booed
him
it's fun. Every time.
And it was personal, man. It was
hilarious, but that's how they are. And I'm serious. You walk in there and you feel the hate, and you're like, man, it's palpable. You can just feel the heat everywhere. And then to go out there and play a defense that was super hyped, like, I guess I'm the only guy that's kind of like, you know what, dude, I didn't think they did too bad. I thought for losing a game, there was things that could be fixed, but I wasn't like, oh, man, season's over. I'm like, all right, let's see what they do next.
Yeah. I think you and I are going to be the voices of reason here, that I think it was maybe a little bit worse than you do, but ultimately it was a game you were supposed to lose, and you should still be able to bounce back and finish above 500, and that game's not going to prevent you from doing whatever you were going to do the rest of the season. If
you let it snowball, it could get ugly quickly, especially like you said with the Lions coming in here next week, because that's a divisional game. You want to continue winning those, and at the same time, you don't want to give that team any life to think that they have any control in this division. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to, when it comes to divisional teams, you got to really stomp the boots hard. Like, listen, this is our division. I don't know what you thought. I don't know who you were playing. No, not happening.
All right, it's time for me to ask you a dumb football question here. This is where I ask a dumb football question and Professor Boone gives his answer. And after we did this last week, a few different listeners submitted their own dumb football questions, wanting them to be read on the show here.
Listen?
A couple people, yeah. There's a couple, 2-3 people. And by the way, if you are one of the 2 or 3 listeners and you're watching us on YouTube, you can click the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We will, in turn, give you daily Vikings entertainment here on Purple Daily. So this is from listener Tim. And for some backstory here, so Janarius Robinson, who I think was like a 4th-round pick a year and a half ago by the Vikings, and he didn't make the roster out of training camp this year. So he spent two training camps with the Vikings, and then last year. So he knows a little something. And I guess last year doesn't matter because new coach, but he spent the entire offseason with the Vikings. He gets cut, and then he signs with the Eagles. And Tim wants to know, when you sign a player like that from a team that you're going to play in like a week or two, how much info can be pulled from that player regarding, say, the Vikings and what they may or may not do game plan-wise?
I think most of the time when you see guys in the NFL during the season getting cut and going to another team, if you look back, that team's probably about to play that team. And a lot of that is bringing you in just to be like, tell us everything, we'll give you a job. And then when they tell you,
here's $100,000. Just
I feel like this is part of like the dark side of the NFL that nobody knows about, but they'll be like, because this is how I see it in my mind. And I've been told at times it is like this. They're like, hey, tell us everything. And guys will come in and be like, all right, listen, Cougar means this. Iceman means this. China is this. Whatever, right? Tell you everything. If he points to the right but looks left, they're really sliding left. If he says loco, they're going left, like all this stuff. And then the teams will just be like, all right, thanks. No, we're good. You know what? We're actually full, but we will put you first on our list.
Oh, wait. So they'll get the info. You'll have to, they're like blackmailing you. So you have to. So they'll say, if you want this job, give us 5 pieces of information.
I don't even think they have to say that. They just bring you in and they're like, hey, we're going to go work out in 10 minutes. But before we do, give us the scoop on this thing.
You know what? I probably shouldn't
Kinda messed
say
up, but it's kinda
I probably
funny.
shouldn't say this, but there was one time where I definitely. No, I shouldn't say this. This happened in my media career one time, a little bit, just a little bit. But I got a gig because of it. Little inside information, so
What?
I can relate. I should tell you off microphone. Let's just say that when there's multiple media entities competing with each other, that if your contract is up or whatever, and you got some information on what could help the next company, and then you bring the information. So
absolutely.
I don't want to get in too much trouble.
It's kind of messed up, but at the same time, there's not a lot of loyalty when someone cuts you. And I don't think they expect you to. And the young guys, and this is a funny story, but when Jim first came to San Francisco, he was like really paranoid about guys getting like word out and stuff. And so he was super smart. So he was like, all right, I already know who my starters are going to be. So he would give you a number. You were a 1 or 3 or a 5. If you were a 1, you went to a meeting with all 1s. And the 1s meetings was always upstairs. If you were a 3, you were an on the bubble guy. So you were kind of like, they knew where you could fit in the team, but at the same time, if you didn't show them something in a couple of weeks, you probably weren't going to make it. But you had a real chance to make it. The 5s didn't have any chance. And all 3 of the groups had to learn different playbooks. And our playbooks would be playbooks for weeks 1, 2, and 3, 4. So preseason week 1, we would do all film for real season week 1. So we'd go. So if we were playing Seattle week 1, he'd be like, okay, listen, we're playing Houston in the preseason. We'll get to them on Friday. We play them Saturday. We're just going to be vanilla, so who cares?
Yeah.
He's like, but Monday through Thursday, we're going to do all Seattle breakdowns. And dude, we'd always start the season super hot because of this. And we'd break these teams
Do other
down.
teams do this?
Never on a team did I ever do this again. But it was super smart because what he did was he was like, these guys are guaranteed to be here. So they're allowed to learn the playbook because they're not going to go anywhere with it. The 3s would get a very vanilla basic playbook, a little bit of ours and a little bit of stuff that we wouldn't run. And then the 5s got just all this super vanilla stuff that nobody.
The 5s got some a coloring book and some crayons. Just
pretty much.
Yeah, just go to the lunchroom.
But
I'll see you guys later.
That was one of the things that at the time I was like, God, he would say, we're paranoid about being paranoid, but that was one of the times where I was like, man, he's taking it way too far. But then looking back, I was like, God, that was so genius because coming out of training camp, there's guys going everywhere. And in the minute you get, a couple of guys from a team, you can start pulling a whole playbook from them and starting to scout them and figure them out. Because going into games, there'd be a lot of times where they'd say, hey, here are the code words for this week. If you hear this, this, or this, it means this, this, or this. Or a lot of times, it would be really loud if we were going somewhere. So the defense would have hand signals. So they'd be like, if they show this hand signal, it means they're going cover 2. If they show this hand signal, they're going cover 1. So you would always be looking around for stuff. But then you get like super big intel from guys that would come from the team that would be like, okay, listen, if they're talking to each other, or if the end points at the tackle, he's telling him I'm going first. So you're like, all right, it's neat, great. Or if the tackle points to him, so then by then the end of the week, you're like, man, we have this whole thing dialed in, picked out. But at the same time, you have to remember there's probably someone on their team telling them everything. And it'd always be like the worst time in the game, and they'd be like, watch the screen. And you'd be like, God, how do they know it's a screen? Or like, watch the draw. It's a draw. Like, dude, what's going on? It was one time we were playing the Rams, and every time we would check to a run, they could tell. We didn't know how they knew, but they would go straight to a blitz every time we would kill it to just the runs. But when we would kill to the pass, they would kill it to Tampa 2. So we were like, dude, how are they figuring this? The entire game, they knew everything. And I think we ended up losing that game. And no, I don't know if we did, but like for weeks and weeks and weeks, it drove me nuts, and it drove a lot of the guys nuts too. Like they wanted to know how they knew, and everybody thought it was because they were telling when my stance was different. But I ended up talking to somebody on the team a couple of weeks later. We ended up talking, and I was like, dude, how did you guys figure this out? They were like, dude, every time you guys would go to run, Frank would look straight ahead, not move. Not even blink.
So he's looking. What he's looking like? Looking at the second level, trying to figure out.
Just looking right at the quarterback. because he knows where he's going. But they were like, every time he went to a pass, he'd instantly start looking around. He's like, because he's checking 4 strong and 4 weak. That was another time in my career where I was like, man, these guys watch more film than I think I might watch at this point. Like, how?
So is that this might be another dumb football question for another day, but that, to me, the film watching process is so fascinating as a guy that has never been in this world at all. There's so many things. If you're going to break down a 3-hour game and then multiple games, there's so many things you could be watching. And I think a lot of fans feel like, oh, you're watching for like the routes that they run. If you're on defense, you're looking at receiver routes or whatever. But it sounds to me like there's a lot of value in trying to pick up tells, right? Okay, if this guy is doing this in these situations, it means, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's the famous, is it the Tom Brady or Peyton Manning? And they told the story about Ed Reed, or Bill Belichick told this on NFL Network during one of the specials where like,
the 100 greatest players.
It was like a poker game. I used to play a ton of poker like back 10, 12 years ago. And in poker, there's different levels of, you're trying to out-level people. So level one is, what cards do I have? And level 2 is, what cards do you think I have? And then level 3 is, what cards do I think you have? And it's like, and to me, that's the interesting part about, you get a good Harrison Smith, who's been in the league for 10 years, or a Ray Lewis or an Ed Reed with those Baltimore defenses, and they've played Peyton Manning or Tom Brady a million times, and then Brady and Manning have played those guys, and they're trying to out-level each other through 20 hours of film breakdown, right?
Yeah, the film breakdown is ridiculous, and a lot of the great players always watched as much film as they could. And the worst part was when all the O-line coaches wanted to watch the sack tape. That's all they ever wanted to watch. Like, guys, let's pull up the sack tape. Okay, we got to watch the sack tape this week. These guys are tough. You'd be like, dude, shut up. Right? Some young rookies over there like, oh, my God.
So this type of thing, in terms of like tipping, the offensive lineman who's staring straight out, this stuff happens in baseball all the time. And I used to be a baseball beat writer for like 3 or 4 years, and would just be talking about this stuff with players and whatever. And there was a game. Are you at all a baseball fan or not really?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. So there was a game. The Twins were playing the White Sox back, I don't know, 7 years ago or something. And Chris Sale was on the mound for the White Sox. Dominating season. Just this big 6'9" lefty, lanky, throws 98 miles an hour. Looks like his slider's coming from behind your head if you're a left-handed hitter. And he was untouchable basically all season, except for the 2 or 3 times he faced the Twins, and they just lit him up every single time. He gave up 7 runs over here, 6 runs over there. And the Twins, I think Paul Molitor was the manager, and Paul Molitor was brilliant as a player and a manager at being able to watch a game and figure out, oh, the pitcher does this when he's about to throw a curveball. So everybody be on it, right? And then they had Torrey Hunter, who was the same thing. He could pick that stuff up from home plate. And I don't remember exactly what the tell was. I think it was Chris Sale was like flaring his glove a little bit when he was going to throw a certain pitch. Like he was going to get in there when he was trying to get a certain grip, he would flare his glove to make some more room for the ball. Yeah. And it told the hitter, and I'm kind of improvising this, but it told the hitter, oh, this is going to be an off-speed pitch, so I can lay off it because he's going to throw it off the plate. But if he doesn't flare his glove, it's going to be a fastball. And you can throw 100 miles an hour. If I'm a major league hitter and I know it's coming, I'm gonna square it up.
Right.
And the fact that those guys are, because you're a fan and you watch the game and you just say, oh, the offensive line and the defensive line are taking each other on, and the pitcher and the hitter are facing each other. But really, there's so many deeper layers to all of this in sports that most fans just never have access to.
Dude, it's like a chess match. We should really break down a game at some time on here, because I think that'd be really fun. But there's so many times where you're watching the game where it's so funny when you're in the moment, you don't see it as much as when I'm watching it now. Like I was watching the Cincinnati game because Cordell was playing, and I'm watching Jonah Williams versus Micah Parsons. And I'm like, before the snap, I'm like, do they all not see that there's 12 guys on the right side of the line and only one on the left? Like, clearly this is Dan Quinn going, here's my one-on-one matchup. Like, I'm going to get what I want, right? He's smart. Dude is smart. And it's like he's not ready for it. Like nobody knows what's going on. The whole line slides to the right. He slides out there. He's not ready. Like all these things. And it's like, dude, if you'd have just watched film, if you'd have just paid attention, if you'd have just woken up a little bit, like there's so much going on out there. They give you the answers to the test all the time. We used to look and be like, look at their feet, look at their hands. Talking to Howie Long one time, and he was like, you guys don't understand. If you just pay attention a little bit more, you'll see so much more. And like I asked him to break down some film with me, and he actually went on the field with me and started breaking stuff down. He's like, you need to be looking for this and this and this. And I'm like, where's my notebook?
Oh man,
damn it. Give me the book.
Football.
Right? Did I ever tell you that story where we started going one-on-one, right? And Howie is 60 years old or something, and he feels like an oak tree. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, like a solid concrete oak tree when I'm touching him. He's like going through some things, and he's like, well, don't be afraid of the hump move or something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So I go to set, and he went to hump me, and he picked me up off the ground. And then he like threw me down, and he like came over to me, and he's like got in my face, and he was like, listen, dude, if we do something out here, we do it 100%. Understand me?
Was he wearing his full suit, like his Fox pregame suit?
No, he was for real, dude. And like after that moment, I was like, dude, all right, I think I'm good. And he was like, no, let's do a couple more. I was like, okay, let's do a couple more. You got it. Like, but like just listening to him and understanding him, there's so many times that I think that guys don't utilize their own teammates and like go to their defensive lineman and be like, hey man, I'm sure you know this guy. I'm sure you've watched this guy. Is there anything that you see that I should be seeing? Is there anything that you know that I should be knowing? Like having friends on the D line is huge because you can go to them with really tough questions. Like, who was a great guy to go to was Linval. Joseph. Like Linval was really smart. And so I could go to him and be like, hey, Linval, I'm playing so-and-so this week. What do you think? And he'd be like, dude, I know you're thinking this, but you should change it up with this because I think you've been looking really good at this. And you're like, you think? You're like, yeah, dude, totally. Just trust it. All right, man. You're the boss. Play against you all day. But you don't see the things. I guess you just don't understand how they play because you don't do what they do. You know what I'm saying? So you just think of them as big, dumb animals. And you're like, oh, whatever. He's fast. Big deal. Get off the ball. He's big. I'll punch him in the face, But there's these guys now are getting better and they're getting faster and they're getting bigger. I mean, you look at Micah Parsons and he doesn't look very big. Yet he's running through guys at times. And it's like, dude, how are guys still being surprised by this? He's going to take you upfield and he's going to go inside. Like these guys have the same moves every time, but they get out there in these situations and these guys make it bigger than it is, or they're not focusing or they're not talking to people and being like, yo, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think I should do? I mean, you have these great players on your team. Go to them and ask them, hey, man, playing freaking the number one player on this team this week, and they're going to try to highlight him on me. What do you think I should do? Is there something I'm doing wrong? I think guys are sometimes afraid to talk to each other. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. I think guys are afraid to express themselves in all areas of life, which maybe is another topic for another day. Just get out there, talk to your coworkers, get better at your job. Next week, we're going to wear Linval Joseph gas masks on the show, too.
Hey, we should bring Linval on. I see him all the time.
Let's do it. Would he come on?
Dude, next time I see him, I'm going to ask him. I see him over at training house all the time.
I just want you. I'll just shut up for an hour, and you guys can just talk about trenches and whatever. I'll ask a couple of dumb football questions and back out of the way.
So funny. He's such a funny dude, man. And you want to talk about one of the most dominant nose tackles in the NFL? Like,
oh, he had a run, man. He had a nice little 6-7 year run of just being dominant. Did he catch on for this season? Is he somewhere right now?
I don't think so. I hope he catches on though. He's such a lighthearted dude. He's a great dude, man. He was one of those guys that walkthrough was not walkthrough. You know what I'm saying? Like he was the guy that would spat up for walkthrough and he'd wear the elbow brace and he'd come down real hard. You'd be like, dude, why? What are you doing? Really? My bad. Okay, I just broke my thumb.
Just elbow dropping people.
Trainer, thumb sideways.
Amazing. Oh man, great stuff, Booney. Great stuff here.
We got
trenches with Boone every Monday or Tuesday.
When are we going to break down the film?
Listen, I've got people working on it.
Do it.
We've got people working on it. We need to find, if we're going to do it, we need to find a way to do it in an audio friendly way, because I would say about there's a huge chunk of our audience that's only listening to the audio on like Spotify, Apple, etc.
We can talk
And so,
through it.
or maybe we can do we could also just do a separate thing once in a while where we're just doing something for the YouTube audience too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the plan. We can give people this regular thing, and then and then maybe once a month you can do a YouTube exclusive or something.
Can I come to you?
Like you want to come to my studio here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, there's room for two to party in here. You, me, and our Chihuahua Terrier mix Maya are gonna be.
Maya.
Yeah.
I'm bringing Bear with me. All right.
Bear. Oh, who's a good boy?
Bear.
Who's a good boy?
Oh yeah.
All right, that's a wrap on Trenches with Boone here. If you guys have any dumb questions about football that you want to submit, hit me up. Just tweet them at me or send it through the Score North, the app, the feedback tab in the Score North app, and we can send them Boonie's way here throughout the season. So, all right, Vikings and Lions next week. We'll be back at you like Monday or Tuesday, and you can recap your next Ironman triathlon whenever that is too. I know you're probably training for something. I'll tell you about my great 30-minute Peloton scenic through Oregon today. Oh my gosh.
Now that I'm thinking about it, dude, the perfect Ironman just came up for you and me to run together.
Oh, is it one where I get to sit on a couch and
it's in the
just
West
watch
Coast?
you?
No, it's in San Francisco. It's called Escape from Alcatraz, and you go on a boat.
Oh, you did you told me about this.
You're doing it.
Do they have any Ironmans where one person straps another person to the shoulders
Like
or,
I push
or
you
back?
with a card? No.
And I'll just hold the water bottle?
I'm telling you, you got to do it. You should do it with me.
I have a picture as a 5-year-old behind bars at Alcatraz. We did some kind of a tour or something. Or I don't know. I just saw the picture. I don't remember it. Maybe I got arrested when I was 5, but I have been to Alcatraz. It's a dark place.
It's a dark place. You're coming again. Get ready.
All right. See you guys. That's Trenches with Boone.